yourself so that you can find out what is in it.
How can the Republican majority in this Congress explain to their constituents that trillions of dollars of new debt is good for our economy?
I first learned about the tactics and the phrase Operation Fast and Furious at the beginning of this year.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be with you again. This is Jeff Wagner on the Conservative Voice, the Conservative Radio Network. Logic over emotion, fact over fiction, the home of independent conservative thought. Once again, the Second Amendment, gun rights, has been in the news quite a bit. We have Barack Obama hitting Connecticut and speaking more frequently once again about basically the need for, in his opinion, more gun control, and it looks as if they're going to settle, the Dems, that is, try to settle on universal background checks, which is a fallacy in itself because universal only covers law-abiding citizens. The criminals will not get their background checks. So, once again, it's just another law to make it look like they're doing something, but in the end, it won't make a difference when it comes to protecting people from nut jobs that go into schools and other gun-free zones. So definitely not the answer. But what I thought we'd do tonight, I want to share something called from the executive, Obama's Real Reason He Wants Your Guns. It's a full documentary. We'll take some breaks in between. It's about an hour. Then I want to come back and talk a little bit about another topic that's related. This I don't say that I agree with everything and all the opinions within this, and it's not really. I guess it's up to you, is what I want to say, as far as what your thoughts are regarding it and what you believe, what you don't believe. But I thought I'd share it. It does at least make you think in parts. Before we start playing this, though, 15,000 felons tried to buy a gun in the year 2010. Of those 15,000 felons, 44 of them were actually prosecuted under this administration. So going into this, I would just leave this thought with you, and that is, are more laws really the answer, or would it be a good idea to enforce the laws we have, and what would the impact of that be? I found that number interesting. Okay, so on to this again. The executive, Obama's Real Reason He Wants Your Guns. It starts out with a quote from Thomas Jefferson: "The beauty of the Second Amendment is that it will not be needed until they try to take it." Here we go.
Sandy Hook School. Callers indicating she thinks there's someone shooting in the building. Units responding to Sandy Hook School. The front glass has been broken out of the school. They're unsure why. All units, the individual that I have on the phone is continuing to hear what he believes to be gunfire. All units responding to Sandy Hook School at this time, the shooting appears to have stopped. It is silent at this time. The school is in lockdown. I have reports that the teacher saw two shadows running past the building, past the gym, which would be rear.
Okay, these units in the school, I got bodies here. Let's get the ambulance in there.
There will be, unfortunately, many more audio recordings like that tell such a dramatic story about what was happening when those police officers walked into that scene of carnage.
All units, the individual that I have on the phone is continuing to hear what he believes to be gunfire.
Roger.
I have reports that the teacher saw two shadows running past the building, past the gym, which would be rear. Units are returning to Sandy Hook School. The front glass has been broken out of the school. They're unsure why. Caller is indicating she thinks there's someone shooting in the building. What I have on the phone is continuing to hear what he believes to be gunfire. We have one now in room 1 who has received a wound to the foot. Unspecified other injuries. I advise for ambulance.
I mean, I think right now, as he's kind of, like the governor said, setting the tone, I mean, he's got a lot on his plate, and he's got to deal with. Yes, sir.
Forgive me for interrupting, but the president's out now in the Eastern there. Let's take a listen.
Good morning. I thought it might make sense to take some questions this week as my first term comes to an end. It's been a busy and productive 4 years, and I expect the same for the next 4 years. I intend to carry out the agenda that I campaigned on.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the issue of guns, given how difficult it will be, some would say impossible, to get any gun control measure passed through this Congress, what are you willing or able to do using the powers of your presidency to act without Congress? And I'd also like to know, what do you make of these long lines we're seeing at gun shows and gun stores all around the country? I mean, even in Connecticut, applications for guns are up since the shooting in Newtown.
Well, my understanding is the Vice President's going to provide a range of steps that we can take to reduce gun violence. Some of them will require legislation, some of them I can accomplish through executive action. But I'm confident that there are some steps that we can take that don't require legislation and that are within my authority as president. And where you get a step that has the opportunity to reduce the possibility of gun violence, then I want to go ahead and take it. I think, for example, how we are gathering data, for example, on guns that fall into the hands of criminals.
President Obama's Watergate is how some critics are describing the growing controversy over the Fast and Furious gun walking program. House Oversight Committee Chairman Darrell Issa, wants Attorney General Eric Holder to appear before his committee early next year. Issa says that hearing will focus on what Justice Department officials should have done to stop the program. Operation Fast and Furious began in 2009, and allowed illegally purchased guns to walk from Arizona gun stores over the border to the Mexican drug cartels. The program was meant to monitor the flow of weapons, but it went very badly haywire. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of guns still missing. They've been linked to the deaths of hundreds of Mexicans along the U.S. border, and also the death of a U.S. Border Patrol agent, Brian Terry. In light of the botched operation and what some see as the Justice Department's botched response, dozens of leaders are calling for Eric Holder to resign. More than 75 members of the House have signed a resolution expressing no confidence in his leadership. Washington Times columnist Jeffrey Kuhner suggests that scandal is President Obama's Watergate. He writes there's been systematic cover-up and that Eric Holder and his aides are guilty of high crimes, including perjury, obstruction of justice, and abuse of power. Kuhner believes that that is worse than Watergate because nobody died during the scandal that brought down President Nixon. For his part, Eric Holder says he's not going anywhere. In testimony before the Judiciary Committee earlier this month, Holder acknowledged that mistakes were made, but said he's not going to resign. He also said he doesn't think any of his top aides ought to step down. Holder played the race card in an interview with the New York Times. He said some of his critics are motivated by racism because he and President Obama are black. Here's the question. Could Fast and Furious eventually become President Obama's Watergate?
As far as people lining up and purchasing more guns, I think that we've seen for some time now that those who oppose any common sense gun control or gun safety measures have a pretty effective way of ginning up fear on the part of gun owners that somehow the federal government's about to take all your guns away.
When y'all go home and you're talking to your buddies and they say, he wants to take my gun away. You've heard it here. I'm on television, so everybody knows it. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in people's lawful right to bear arms. I will not take your shotgun away.
These are a few of the 23 executive actions that I'm announcing today.
I will not take your rifle away.
These are a few of the 23 executive actions that I'm announcing today.
I won't take your handgun away.
These are a few of the 23 executive actions.
Executive action.
And yet, that doesn't mean any of this is going to be easy to enact or implement. This will be difficult. There will be pundits and politicians and special interest lobbyists publicly warning of a tyrannical, all-out assault on liberty.
Adolf Hitler is recognized as one of the most feared men in the history of the world. His legacy of genocide and usurpation of political power has been studied by many. How did someone so inconceivably cruel and evil rise to power? What can history tell us about the mistakes that were made that allowed a man like Hitler to go unnoticed for such a long period of time before costing millions of people their lives? Hitler's supremacist and racially motivated policies resulted in the deaths of an estimated 50 million people during World War II, including 6 million Jews and 5 million non-Aryans, whose systematic extermination was ordered by him and his close subordinates. How was this allowed to happen? Is history repeating itself now? And is it too far-fetched to liken the current President of the United States, President Barack Obama, to such a widely feared and reviled historical figure? In many ways, America seems to be making the same mistakes that Germany did prior to the outbreak of World War II. Economic depression and general instability helped fuel the fire to Hitler's rise to power. Inch by inch, Hitler brought tyranny to Germany, and once Führer, few had the courage to question his leadership or authority. At that point, it was too late, and those that surrounded him were encouraged not to think, but to take orders. Hitler's enemies were propagandized as a lower rung of human, and it made the extermination of them that much easier. They were treated like dogs, needing to be euthanized. Before becoming Führer, on the night of January 30th, 1933, the Nazis organized a massive torchlight parade in Berlin